Hi guys, it's Miss Brown. I just wanted to do a read aloud of today's reading. So, feel free to use this. You don't need to, if you're fine reading on your own, but just if you want another voice in the room or just somebody to kind of pace you through the reading, that's what I'll be doing. Every time it gets to a question, I'll tell you to pause the video. That way you can take a minute and answer the question as you get there. So today's reading is about Pompeii. We talked about it a little bit in class briefly, but not too much yet. Some of you maybe have been there in Italy. I never have, but it's supposed to be a really beautiful place to visit. So the article is called Lost Cities, Pompeii, Preserved by Disaster, Risks Ruin All Over Again. This is a News ELA article originally written for The Guardian. So editor's note, of all the lost cities in the world, ancient Pompeii is the most found. The volcanic eruption that destroyed the Roman city also froze it in time. But now, 2,000 years later, it is alive with people who threaten its existence all over again. So the first section is called A Famous Lost City. From the great stone amphitheater, one can see the center of the city of Pompeii. Waves of tourists enter from left and right and then move toward the public baths. There, they pass by pools and 2,000-year-old wall drawings of warriors and couples. For thousands of years, Pompeii was a famous lost city. It became lost after a volcano covered it in lava and ash almost 2,000 years ago. For 2 days in 79 CE, Mount Vesuvius, that's the volcano, buried the city. The story of Pompeii has been told in novels, poems, stage plays, movies, and television programs. All the stories came from one written report about the volcano by a teenager named Pliny the Younger. He had just finished lunch with his uncle, Admiral Pliny the Elder. It was a sunny afternoon. They were at a naval base on the Bay of Naples. About 15 miles away, a huge dark cloud in the shape of an umbrella rose up 20 miles into the sky. It moved toward them and started coming down. So the first question is factual, so it means you can find it in that paragraph I just read. How do we know about what happened at Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE? So you're looking for, whose report? How do we have a firsthand primary source account from that day? So I would pause the video to answer that question. So the next section is called Running for Their Lives. As roofs crashed in, most people made a run for it. Some strapped pillows to their heads as protection from the raining rocks. Waves of burning 600-degree ash and poison gases brought instant death to the people of Pompeii. The sixth and largest blast from the volcano forced the 17-year-old Pliny and his mother to escape. As they ran, they saw the shoreline disappear as a giant tsunami rushed in. Then the clouds of ash turned day into the blackest night. Meanwhile, Admiral Pliny the Elder sailed off to Pompeii. On shore, he got a closer look. He died trying to save as many people as he could. His body was found 3 days later on the beach. Pliny the Younger wrote that he looked like a man who was just sleeping. All the victims of Pompeii slept under the ash for almost 1,700 years. In 1748, archaeologists, scientists that study the world of the past, began to dig down to the city that lay beneath Mount Vesuvius. They found that the people who died almost looked like they were still alive. They were frozen in time. One was sitting on a couch, another standing near his donkey, and one was raising her hands to the sky. So question number 2, what are archaeologists? Again, this is factual, so in that paragraph I just read. When did they start digging? So looking for the year. And what did they find? So what were some examples of what they found? So I would pause and answer that question. So the next section is called Bodies Leave Empty Spaces. The diggers found empty spaces in the hard, dark ash where people had been sitting or standing. The teams of archaeologists poured plaster into the empty space left by the body. It looked like a statue of a person. The figure was called the muleteer, or mule man, because he was found near the bones of a mule. A mule is like a donkey. More than 100 plaster casts of bodies trying to escape the deadly ash have been made. About 1,150 bodies have been found so far. Mary Beard has written a best-selling book and done 2 television stories about Pompeii. She uses modern-day X-rays to help explain daily life in the towns around Vesuvius. These places were not big Roman cities, but more like small country towns. Between 10,000 and 20,000 people lived in towns like Pompeii. In the ruins of Pompeii, archaeologist Sophie Hay searches for information about the everyday experiences of soldiers, street traders, and slaves. She finds old loaves of bread burned to a crisp and tools used by workmen and doctors. There are doormats spelling out "Beware of the dog," and even graffiti on the walls that read, "Anichis hung out here with his girlfriend Cithra, and Euphra, you are bald." Right, so kind of some slang. Obviously that was written in Latin, okay, but that's a translation. On the wall of a church was written, "A small problem gets larger if you ignore it." It seemed to warn the people that something bad was going to happen. At the time, Pliny, remember the one who wrote the primary source account, wrote about small earthquakes in the area, but he was ignored. Earthquakes can be a sign that a volcano is going to erupt. Throughout history, the volcano has erupted more than 30 times. The last time was in 1944, so about 75 years ago. Number 3 is factual. What are some things that were found out or discovered about Pompeii? So you want to use that whole section, just anything they found, to learn more about Pompeii. So pause the video to answer question 3. Okay, the next section is called Trying to Save the City. Vesuvius remains one of the world's most dangerous volcanoes, with millions of people living on or near its slopes. Yet, Pompeii also has other problems. Weather, heavy rains, and thousands of tourists are hurting the city. Many buildings and monuments have been wearing down and collapsing. The Italian government and the European Union have created the Great Pompeii Project to save the city. In 1977, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, listed Pompeii as one of the most important places in the world. But today, UNESCO also warns that Pompeii might have to be placed on the list of World Heritage Sites that are in danger. New problems are coming from people who believe the work to save Pompeii is causing more harm than good. Beard, she was one of the archaeologists, wants new digging to stop. 1/3 of the town is underground, and that is where it should stay, safe and sound for the future, she said. She wants people to work harder on saving the other 2/3 that are now out in the open. These parts of Pompeii will fall apart if they are not protected more from weather and too many tourists, so too many people walking around. Many people worry that the lost city of Pompeii could disappear again while it is still being found. So number 4, the final question you're answering, is factual. Why is Pompeii at risk today? So why, is Mary Beard, the archaeologist, worried about it? What could happen? And why is it happening? Okay, so pause the video to answer that. So the rest of the document, you need to create 3 questions about the reading. So 1 factual question. It obviously cannot be one of the ones that you already answered, but something that can be answered in the text. A conceptual question, like what would happen if, why, how, making an inference. It could be analyzing a quote. And then debatable. So something like, do you think, do you believe, things like that. So like, should tourists still be allowed there? Something that has multiple perspectives. After you do that, there is an ed puzzle. You're gonna make sure you log in. Remember, we've gone over that. And 2 questions to answer about the puzzle. So the ed puzzle, will show you a little bit more what Pompeii looks like, and a little bit more about why it's in danger today. After you've done that, you're gonna do your Rome daily review sheet and complete your row for 318. And your exit ticket is, what does Pompeii tell us about the way Romans lived? So thinking about what evidence has been found there, and what does that tell us about Rome and the people who lived in this smaller country town, right? Not in the large cities that we've been talking about. Make sure you also do your vocab words. Your list is linked right there. So, whatever you think fits for today, and then a summary of what you learned. So what is Pompeii? Why is it at risk? Why is it important that we try to keep it safe and not destroy it anymore? Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. We really miss being in the classroom with you guys, and hopefully, we'll be back soon.